John and I have been colleagues since the beginning of the first year of Cal State Monterey Bay, where I was the founding president. He was one of the founding faculty in what we didn't call IT. We had some much fancier name for it. And so we have continued in a life of joint crime through several iterations since 1995. I wanted to start by just contextualizing. We're here, we need your help on something. I need your help on something. And so I hope you'll look at this, sort of look through it and across it, what we're going to show you and talk about today, and how you would make it better, what would you do to make sense in your open world, and what we got right and what we don't got right. A year ago, we were here with some wireframes that are now in a beta, and we'll give you the site. You can go and sign up and play with it. We're going to show you more wireframes today of what the next iteration is going to be in terms of the user experience of what we're now calling qualified. I was asked about a year and a half, 2 years ago, to go and figure out the best way and the cheapest way to help people get where they want, figure out where they are, get where they want to go in terms of work, and the kind of learning it would take to do that. That has morphed over the last 18 to 20 months, 24 months, into what you're going to see today. But essentially what we have done is design, in simplest terms, a gap analysis. You can download your LinkedIn profile, you can upload your resume. We've got an algorithm engine, a semantic engine that will chew it up and create work profile, not academic profile, but work profile. And you can then say, I want to be an accountant, or I want to be an IT consultant, or whatever, and it'll tell you what you need. A gap is there. It gives you all the information you need to know, how many jobs are available in your state, in your city, in the country. Where are they? They're fresh. We have the data feed coming through. We can analyze all those jobs using a now daily hydrated database, so everything is up to speed. So you get the gap analysis, you learn what you need to know about the job, and then you can access. We've got probably 5,000 courses now in the database for all the Sailor courses. We've got a lot of the MIT courses. We've got a lot of the Stanford courses. And it'll organize the courses in priority order and tell you what part of the gap that you have will be satisfied if you take the course. So you then have a path, and then you follow the path. That's the notion. This is free. Okay? Rest assured, we'll figure out a way to make some money on it at some point. But the whole premise of this is that everything I'm talking about, we're going to talk about today, needs to be free, because we are asking way too much of people in terms of committing their time, their dreams, their money, and everything else up front for a delayed gratification, maybe. And so, having been with this open education resource movement from almost the beginning, although I would never hold myself out as being an important member of it, but I had the pleasure of being on the MIT OCW advisory board the first year they started full with this stuff. And I was frankly skeptical. I will not try to tell you that I saw the wisdom of it immediately. I really didn't. I just knew that when MIT and the other people on board, I used to say it's 10 people you've heard of and me. But it's been a profound learning experience, and since I've been the ADG for Education at UNESCO in Paris and looked at the open movement globally through that lens, when I came back, I went to Kaplan because I wanted to see if there's any better chance of doing some of this stuff, actually doing it, as opposed to arguing about it or being underfunded or under-resourced. And I've been there about 6 years. So John, why don't you?
Okay, and I'm going to sort of jump us into sort of a higher view and get us down to that gap analysis. You may recall when the President talked about wanting to get more graduations, highest proportion of college graduates in the world in 2009. You probably wish we graduated more IT specialists if following the healthcare debacle. But it says the difference between people who maybe have a degree and people who have competency. So we have this new learning ecosystem that's established.
And I think Chris and I were talking about, Brandon and I were talking about this beforehand. The thing that is critical here is that everything we have done traditionally is based on there are not enough resources. We've got to find a campus, we've got to have a lab, we've got to have a library. And scarce resources means scarcer opportunity, but then you've got to choose who's going to go and do it. So everything, the economics of it, the way it's organized, is set up based on the notion of scarcity. we are now one step into a future where there is no scarcity. And so we have unlimited content access. And what we've got to do is figure out how we match people with the resources that make sense to them and help them get where they want to go, as opposed to putting them through a push system. We want to design something that is a pull system that allows people to make the connections they want to make when they want to make them.
Oops, helps if I go the right direction. So now we have what becomes a 21st century school, and we'll talk about all these things, but we really want to focus on the assessment that promotes a seamless transition between work and degree programs. That's the area which the new product that Peter and I are going to demonstrate in the wireframes about is, dealing with this that transition between life, work, and degree. So I want a moment to get you in a mindset to look at this wireframe. What are your qualifications for your current job? What qualifications do you lack to move to what your next job might be within the current career path that you have? And for those of you who think you might want to change that completely, what qualifications do you have that would help you with a job change, and what qualifications would you have to get for that job change? Sort of give you 20 seconds for a mental note on that.
I decided to retire.
I did that, Peter, and I failed.
You're not qualified.
Okay, typically, this exercise that I did about what the qualifications mean on job application, typically that process you went through might have been if you saw a job and they wanted to have a summary of your education experiences and put it on the table for that job app. And what we're saying is that process of analyzing what your current skills and qualifications are, how those qualifications and skills match your current job or the career path of your current job, or how those skills and qualifications match to a potential alternative career is much more complex than the simple writing that you would do on a job application. Last year, we showed you the wireframe for what then was called Project Ranger, but it's now qualified. It's in beta, and if you go to thequalified.org, you can sign up for an account. If you do it through your LinkedIn, it will automatically populate your site with the job listings that you had. So if you listed you were a lion tamer in LinkedIn, that's what it will do. But based on your LinkedIn jobs, start matching the qualifications. I did that here. This is my qualified LinkedIn. My goal is to be a technical consultant. I am going to help Obama. As a technology instructor, I really wanted to get a job as a chief technology officer, but was really somewhat shocked to find that even though I'm a professor in instructional technology and computer science, in terms of my skills that are needed to be a chief technology officer, I had a few blocks I had to follow. And I didn't want to move to Texas for a job anyway. So this is what the current site looks like. Now what we're going to do is move to the wireframe and talk about what the next generation will look like. And we'll walk you through some of it, and Peter and I will discuss some of the flavors. Do you want to sort of give the overview as I link over to this?
What we've done now is we built this initially just from the ground up and the inside out, not worrying about user experience. So what you will experience if you go to the beta, we have corporate and nonprofit development partners, and we're basically working from their perspective out. So it isn't complete and it's pretty clunky. We then went to a couple of groups and said, okay, now we want this to actually be fun, engaging, and interesting, that will generate return usage, and will be what I call, there are two terms that come to me. One is a warm hearth. Now, I'm from Vermont originally, so understand the context of a warm hearth. A place where you want to return to that connotes warmth, family. It's a friendly place. The other is sense making. My particular bias is that content is no longer a differentiator. There may be 200 institutions in America and maybe 500 around the world that can say it's our curriculum, so it's great. But in fact, well, the person in the end of scarcity, the beginning of abundance, what John or Johanna Doe on the street is experiencing is chaos. In other words, if I Google Yale, I search Yale, I'll get Yale University, and then I'll get Yale Lux, and then I'll get a whole lot of other things. If I Google higher education, I don't get anything. I just get noise. So, and I am of the opinion that we have shorted adults chronically and historically in the way we treat them in the recognition of their learning and the connection of what they know to where they need to go. So those, what we're trying to do here, both around the career and the choices, the knowledge, skills, behaviors, and abilities it takes, all of that is to wrap it around the world the way the learner is looking at it, not the world the way a university will look at it.
Okay, so now, at this point, I'm John Doe. You know him as recently engaged to Jane Doe, or soon to be Jane Doe. Anyway, and this is the person's dashboard. And it has little things like you might expect in a new web-based environment, a to-do list, some other things. But probably more important is that we want to look at what my experiences are. So at this point, again, brought in from the LinkedIn, from this person's job experiences, we have a list of what this person's experiences are in sales, research and development, business. I'm going to look at marketing. If we look at marketing, we see his job experience is that of a marketing and planning manager. This came from his LinkedIn description, and if marketing planning manager, and it also says what skills he's learned in that. He's had 3.5 years of experience, and hopefully the skills will show up. Show skills, there we go. Oops, F's. And so operations research, consumer behavior, these are some of the skills that were in the experience as a marketing manager. Now, one of the nice things about this system, and as Peter says, talking abundance, because this had already been entered in, because it's connected to large databases associated with job titles and positions, this was not a tedious task of keying this all in, making those decisions, but prompted through the system. But probably more important than the experiences, we want to see what opportunities lie for John Doe. So now we're back, and these are the opportunities that John has in various areas, whether it be retail, which is over here, account management, pricing. Let's go to marketing, because that area of marketing, you see that he has a fair amount of experience, years of experiences and skills.
Yellow is years of experience and skills are great.
So we go to marketing. And under marketing, we see there really is a whole other set of years of experience and skills. You see the double heart there. John, because of where he is in his career, he's interested in expanding into market research. Now, he probably didn't make that choice to go to market research blindly. If you look at that little circle, there are 115 jobs in market research and only 35 jobs in advertising and marketing. So he's probably interested in that because that's the greatest probability. He'd already listed that he lives in San Jose, he's got his kids in school, doesn't want to move, but wants to advance in his career. So we'll look at the research, and this starts describing the market research job. Research analyzes, studies market conditions, local, region, national. So it talks a little bit about what the jobs, this could be added to his goal, this is where it's located next to the city, what the majors are with people who get that, the average education level, the average year's experience. So this is a much more informed analysis about this potential career, but obviously linked to his experiences and his skill sets. So one thing here, how do I match up? So in terms of market research skills, in that previous screen, you saw all the skills that he had, but this lays those out in greater detail. He happens to have a BA in marketing, an AMA professional certificate, but this goes on to explain a lot of the other areas he has, whether it be operation research, health brand tracking. Did you want to say something, Peter, while we're in there? Okay. But there are a set of skills that he really needs, John needs, to really increase his competitiveness to be qualified for the new position. And linking back to that comment of Obama, who said in 2009 he wanted to have more people to degrees, and completing a degree is a good thing to do. But most people I talk to in our institutions aren't there in the community college or the CSU because they want a degree or diploma. They want a job. And they want that degree or diploma because going to school can give them the skills that they need, the competencies that they need to be able to either get that job, move up in their job, or move to another job. So in this case, it sounds like there's some areas that he needs some enhancement to increase the number of skills to be a better match for that job. So maybe some courses in consumer behavior would be useful. And in this case, a number of courses have already been pre-selected, and that's where Peter talked about populating it with those courses. Courses that could become from state or public institutions, private institutions, OER resources. The idea is, let's give, in this area where it's no longer scarcity, let's give the choices. The problem is not that there's not courses available, it's how do you find them? How do you associate them with a gap that you have personally with an opportunity you want to pursue? And why should you have to do all that when the machine can do that sort of matching and developing?
And one of the things that I think is going to happen, and we would love to be part of this, is the modularization. I mean, you look at a lot of the training and education that's going on, quarter courses, semester courses don't have anything to do with anything. What people are breaking it down into learning objects with an assessment and resource attached to it. And it strikes me that rather than having 5,000 courses, one of my objectives would be downstream we have tens of thousands of learning objects that can be organized so that you can actually, you don't have to go through a whole course to get the two things out of it that you need. You can actually go to the two things you need and do that. And I think the other thing, you're going to hear any conversation about college transcripts here. There are legal requirements and there are professional requirements, and we tell people about that. I'm going to go to the Saylor Excelsior presentation this afternoon, because you can take all this data, and it would be including some of the, well, it could include all Saylor courses, and go to Excelsior, put it up, and get tested. Or go to Charter Oak State College in Connecticut, where they do portfolio assessment. So the whole object here is this information can hydrate an economic description of what your capacity is, or it can hydrate an academic description. And not confusing the two, because neither is necessarily a great proxy for the other. And that's what we've got now, is a one-way proxy where the credential is the proxy for the skill. And that's the gap that it just doesn't work.
So to refresh where we came from, because you just listened to a university president talk, so you have to breathe down. Refresh where we came from. You know, you brought your stuff in from LinkedIn. You matched your skills to both your academic training and your professional experience. We saw how it matched up to your skills matched, what ones you had, what ones you might need. Now we want to encourage, some motivation. And now this is the job opportunities that are in this area. And I said this happened to be in San Jose because the person didn't want to move. So these are actual real jobs that are live from the I'm not sure where you pull from these things.
We pull them from all sorts of places, all legally, I might add. And we hydrate it every day. And none of these are more than 60 days. I'm going to say it's 60 or maybe 75 days old.
Okay, so now we have taken the dashboard, which is how you got into this system. Essentially, this is where you made the link to share your data from LinkedIn. We were able to reflect on our experiences, building an experience wheel from your previous experiences, not your current job, but all the jobs that you've listed. We've gone to my opportunities, and then a more granular look at how your opportunities that you have based on your experiences and skills with a gap analysis of where you need to go. Then the next area is read my goals. And this is an area of helping people begin to take action with their plans. This is where continue my part 2 of how to strengthen your resume. Apply to one job this week. So what we've tried to do is within one space, provide that connection rather than looking down the tube from one end, you know, where I go to the website and say, gee, I might like to take this course in because it happens to be available for free, and I have some interest in it. From the other end saying, based on who I am, where I am, what I know, what I'd like to know to go where I want to be, these are the actions that I need to take. Because part of the goal that we're looking with in California is we have a lot of students who started degree programs and didn't finish them for any number of reasons. We have a lot of students who are in degree programs that are taking longer than they need to take to be able to exit, and because we have constrained resources, we need to put as many students through our educational system as fast as we can. We have students who maybe are only lacking a limited number of skills or, quote, units to get their degree, and we need to help them find out how to do that. Some of that can be done through counseling and student services within the academic institutions, but they have one set of tools to work with, not as many tools as you have in a broad ecosystem.
And I would add, I mean, at Kaplan, this by the way, this is all a separate entity from Kaplan Higher Education. It's something they've asked me to invent, and with John and other people we're doing. But so I'm going to talk about Kaplan University for a minute. We are not any better at career services support than anybody else, and I think it's one of the sort of sleeping dogs of American higher education. And I would add high school guidance counseling to it. I don't think the general public has any way of understanding or then quantifying how poorly we serve most of our students with good information that is pertinent to them, both about how they're wired and what they got and where they want to go. So we see this as an area which is got, it isn't like, oh, we're already doing that. Everybody's already doing something, but nobody's doing anything particularly well unless you're rich and white and generally used to be male. Now you're going to be female as well. And that is not good career counseling. I go back to my, God forbid, 50th college reunion next year, and I will be surrounded by men who are desperately unhappy with what they've been doing for the last 50 years, but they're making too much money to quit, and it turned out 10 years into it that what Dad did didn't turn out to be what I wanted to do, but it was a little late. So I don't even think high reputation schools do a particularly good job of preparing for it.
Okay, we have completed our part of the presentation. Now it's for your presentation, and I know you're qualified because of the experience that you have here for you to give us feedback, suggestions, and ideas.
So how does it strike you? What's missing? Or, yes?
Does the user own their own data, or do you own their data?
At the end of the user will own their own data up to the point where they ask us for an assessment. In other words, this is the free service, and it will stay free. I mean, then if they say, by the way, I want to get an assessment, and some of the courses will be for sale because they come from sources that sell them. So, but there will be a ton of free courses as well and free modules. At the point where they ask us for something, then in fact they pay us for something, and the database will be accessible by anybody, anytime. So I'm not enough of a techie to be sure I'm using the right language legally, but we have no intention of selling this data to anybody. I don't know if that gets accurate.
Another way of answering it, Chris, is the LinkedIn data where you put your job experience as what you're doing is your data, and you had to agree to share it with this site. The data that they're analyzing this against, the job skill banks, some of them are government databases that are free.
I don't mean the source data, sorry, I wasn't clear.
Okay.
I mean, you're going to know, there's the source data, you're going to know what they looked at, you may know even what they took action on, right? You're going to be building a profile of data about that user, not just the input data.
Right.
I don't care who owns that record, that's
Okay.
an extended profile.
Yeah, and I guess whatever the terms of this agreement when you sign on to it, like you do with services, but in terms of the knowledge gain, the information, and how you apply it, that's what you own.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So where are you getting your courses from?
We basically go out, we got a bunch of Kaplan courses, we got the Sailor courses, we got MIT courses, we went out and just asked people and then scraped them. Then we got some vendors, because a lot of the workplace stuff, you know, Citrix will then do business with the provider of particular kinds of technology modules. So we've got about I'm going to say 5,000 now. We tag them, we analyze them. There are two implications here that I think are really interesting. You could create a degree program at a college and fill in the courses that somebody took and take all those descriptions, and at the end of the day, we know that if you get a B or better, you're pretty good in that area academically. We can analyze all of those courses and say what your work profile will actually look like in terms of direct work attributes, which is what the Department of Labor uses. So instead of relying on advisory councils to say, yep, that looks like a good match, what you can actually see is what I will actually have.
And how did you build that?
Well, that's what we're spending a lot of money and time building. I mean, we have a joint venture with a little company in Texas that had the semantic engine, but in fact, hydrating, creating the database, getting it accessible, and then hydrating it, because it only gets
Changes
better.
all the time.
And it only gets better. The more user information we have in there, the better and the quicker and the more accurate the assessment will be.
The closer the courses and units of instruction, whether it's a course or a module, is to describing a skill that a student will acquire through that experience. And that can be linked to a system of being able to input it, then it can be attached to this data service.
So you guys are doing an analysis.
We have to stop right there, actually. We have to.
Yeah, let me leave you with one.
10, 11?
Yeah, we thought it was.
Supposed to be 10.
We thought it
Oh,
was
10, never mind, the hook.
One thought. LinkedIn, throws these badges around, frankly, like Cracker Jacks. Okay, and I don't know how many of you have gotten bashed by somebody you've never met.
Endorsements.
Yeah, they're not really
Okay,
bad.
I'm sorry, friends. I know it was a terrible mistake. Endorsements. But what would happen if you could ask the LinkedIn database, what are the 10 most frequently awarded badges from all sources for somebody who's an accountant or a bookkeeper? You would then have an independent, crowdsourced quality standard that those 10 endorsements and what lies beneath them are in fact important for accountants to have. And then you can, in fact, source that against this database to create a path.
So our goal is to make a very risk-robust thing to expand everyone's reach.
Hey, we need to stop there. We need to give enough time for next presenter. Let's give a round of applause.